Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with really cool people about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate both personal and professional change. Today's topic is how to be amazinger on LinkedIn. And this conversation is worth your while. If you find it difficult to put yourself out there, or you don't know what to say, and you don't really know how to use LinkedIn, and you want an ROI on your social media, but thus far that just hasn't happened. And you're thinking, why am I putting my energy into something that doesn't actually pay me back? But it's year end. And if you would love to jump into 2023 with all pistons firing, up your game so that next year is your best year yet, then you're going to love this conversation because we're going to show you why it's been so hard to get an ROI out of social media. And we're going to share with you why it's so important to be on LinkedIn, especially now. Something you might not even be aware of is happening. And also, we're going to show you how to use LinkedIn in an effective way that will actually get you that ROI and launch you into 2023. So we're going to start with a few introductions. I'm Linda Bucher. I believe that each of us have gifts to share with the world and that you are here to make a difference. And I love to work with smart, passionate people who are exciting about sharing their gifts, and they really want to make the difference. My gift, my purpose, they lie in synthesizing my experience and skills and talents to coach, lead, mentor, and teach. And I just love to help people to discover their path and balance their lives and align all that energy and direction with their gifts, like my guest has done, which you're in for a treat. But the reason I do this is because you have important gifts to share with the world, and you didn't come this far to just get this far. It's time to make a difference. And the guest I have today is really making a difference in the world, and he's getting his gifts out there. I have the pleasure today of being joined by LinkedIn expert and coach Marc Halpert. He's a coach, he's a trainer. His company is Connect to Collaborate, and Marc helps professionals to tell why they do what they do so they can be amazinger than the competition on LinkedIn. So hi, Marc. Thank you for being here with us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, Linda, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So can you tell me why this topic about being amazinger on LinkedIn is worth your while to speak to us today about?
Well, in my practice as a LinkedIn coach and trainer, I come across absolutely fascinating people who just can't talk about why they're fascinating. I get it in between the lines, but they're not able to commit it to writing on their profile. And that's the first introduction to a lot of people that they lead with. And that's a dead end for most people because they just can't say it.
Right. So they can't be amazinger if they can't get out there. And
If you're not amazing to start with, you can't be amazinger than the
right.
competition. You
Right.
have to know what makes you tick in order to make yourself stand out from your competition and your competition's competition. Because as people shop, they search on LinkedIn, for example, ways and people that they need to meet, or they're referred to somebody that they need to meet. And if you come across flat and bland on your written profile, your phone's not going to ring. They've made the decision that you're not ready for them, or they're not ready for you.
So that's a beautiful segue into our part one, which is why it's been so hard for people to get an ROI out of social media, out of LinkedIn. And you're talking about, well, you can't get an ROI if you're not putting yourself out there. So
Well, you really can't. You can't unless you know what you want to say, unless you plan it and you say it consistently with every touch that people have, with the same exuberance, the same intonation. As they're reading you, they have to hear your voice. If they've never heard your voice, when they finally call you, it all works together in their head and it connects. When it doesn't, the disconnect buzzers go off in their head, and they have to work harder to want to like you, and you have to work harder for them to like you. Well, that's not a great way to start a relationship, is it?
It's not. And so it's been hard for people to get their ROI because they're not putting themselves out there. And sometimes that's, I don't know how, right? I don't know what I want to say. Or they put it out in such like for coaches that I mentor coaches, they're in coach speak all the time. Like people don't understand coach speak, so you're not saying it in an effective way. That's your own voice. And you're also not getting an ROI if you have fear, like, well, why would somebody want to hear from me? Why am I like, if you might not even know your own UVP, your own unique value proposition, your differentiation, or if you're shy and resistant to talking about yourself, or you think you have to talk about yourself and I'm all that way, which is certainly not the case. So there's our fears that come into play. So there's a lot of reasons why we're not getting this ROI. And I know at part 3 of our conversation, we're going to tell people exactly how to, so let's not spoil that. But any other thing you want to elaborate on why it's so hard to get an ROI out of social media thus far?
Well, LinkedIn is hard to use. It's confusing. It's not well positioned. They talk about themselves. LinkedIn talks about itself as a job board. If you're not looking for a job, then they keep saying they're a job board. Why would I want to get involved with them? Well, folks, it is a water cooler in the office of 875 million people.
Wow.
Where people come to talk, not just come to look for a job, but come to speak, come to compare notes, come to learn from each other, come to see where the world is going. I have lectured Zulu tribes people in their native lands on their cell phones. I have lectured people all over the world. I have lectured people who are very popular or well regarded in their field, but they can't get it out of their system. We were taught not to talk about ourselves. And once you free yourself to talk about yourself and express why what you provide is better, smarter, amazinger, people listen in. Their antenna go up. You've got something they need. You have something they need to learn. They may be predisposed to you because they were referred to you, or you were referred to them, but they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile before they do anything. And if they don't like what they see, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is, yes, we're taught not to talk about ourselves, and it truly can be really uncomfortable. And I was talking with a client recently, and I said, well, what if your gifts and your message are not about you? What if they're not attached to your ego? What if it's like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. You've been given great gifts, right?
Sure.
And,
Sure.
if you can say, it's my duty and my responsibility to get these gifts out into the world, to get my message out, to get my product, my service. This is why I've been given this passion, this purpose. And it's my job to get it out there. And it's really not about my ego. As a thought leader, as an evolving thought leader, because we never actually arrive, we're always just evolving constantly. So
Absolutely.
myself as an evolving thought leader, I recognize I can always share how far I've come and share the journey I'm on right now, because it's in service of someone else who is in that same place, or is a former version of, where I used to be, right? And they're working their way through as well. And initially, I've got to carry this message because it's been given to me. It's been trusted to me by the universe to get out into the world. So I've got to carry it. So it's got to be attached to me. But eventually, if I do my job and I do it well, then the message carries itself. But it's my job to carry it.
That. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Two things to that. You don't have to worry about sounding egotistical on LinkedIn, because here's a little trick. You can talk about yourself, but as I do in my profile, I say, it's not just me telling you about me. Hear and see what other people have said about me. And I include quotes from clients that are unsolicited after a presentation, after working with a company or a firm or an individual. And they say things, little one-liners, so that it's not just me saying how wonderful I am. It's they're saying, that Marc, he says his why. This is how well he does his why. Reinforced by skills endorsements, reinforced by actual written recommendations on my LinkedIn profile. So you don't have to worry about being the only person tooting your own horn. You let other people
Right.
do it for you. And I think it's even more effective.
Exactly. That's what I think. Let people believe other people that they don't know over you that they don't know. So that social proof is important for their peace of mind. Let them do that. You don't need to toot your own horn. You just need to get your message out there in a helpful way. One of the ways I do that is through this series of conversations worth your while. Let's help some people. That's, get their gifts out into the world. I'm helping you get your gifts out into the world today, Mark. And we're helping other people with your expertise and sharing that to get their gifts out in the world through LinkedIn. So it's a very beautiful thing. And you can take your ego out of it because it doesn't need to be there. What you're doing is beautiful and perfect. And what I'm not saying you specifically, I'm to our audience, what everyone's doing is beautiful and perfect. And you can let your testimonial speak for that as you just give your gift and be generous. So I love that. So let's talk about, why is it so important to be on LinkedIn?
Well, if you're not on LinkedIn and you're not consistently relevant and consistently important and consistently useful and helpful, no one's going to follow you. Simple fact, we are overwhelmed with social media material.
Sure.
But when you are consistent in providing value, and when you are consistent in providing perception, honed with your own viewpoint and your own experience of getting that viewpoint, people remember you. It's part of the heart and the mind to working together. That's how you create a brand. That's where you are self-branding. When you're not just saying factoids about me, you're talking about the things that people respect in you, value you for, things that came from the heart, working with the mind. And the more you ping on somebody's radar screen, the more they're going to remember you. And that means not once a week and not once a month, and certainly not every quarter. That means as often as you have something important to add.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking to everybody.
For about 3 weeks, but I have good intentions. And I know I'm so excited to learn from you today.
Well,
so
to that point, many of us just get so tied up in what we're doing that we take care of our clients before we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And you can do both, okay? Through LinkedIn, you can take care of both your clients and your need to express what you're seeing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have never been reluctant to talk about something that passes through my desk, or something that somebody said to me in an offhand comment that I say, that's a fascinating point. I'm going to chew on that for a bit and see if I can't come up with something that I can interpolate that into something somebody else should know about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. So on LinkedIn, well, I mean, one thing that happens is many of us don't change our websites very often, right? We put it up there. That's like the billboard. It's like your brochure of what you do, with a blog if you have one, which is your current stuff. But for the most part, it's like the old folders I used to create when I worked in the marketing department. Here's a brochure, pre-printed stuff. Here's what we do. Here's our services, things like that. But LinkedIn is unlike that, because it's not so stagnant, because this LinkedIn gives you a place to talk about who you are, what you're saying, like what's important to you, why, how you got to the place you got to be at. So it gives us an opportunity to be, you use the word relevant, which I really like. And also be, not just conversational, but someone else might spark something and it gives us an opportunity to share our insights on that. And our insights are part of our gifts to get out into the world. Now, you mentioned, that LinkedIn, you told me LinkedIn is a power tool. And when it's used correctly, it differentiates you from other people in your field, because your competitors are on LinkedIn. So can you elaborate on that a little more?
Well, you can search for the field you're in on LinkedIn, and 1,000 people will come up all across the world. How do people hone in on you? How do you get on the top 5, the top 10 on the short list to be considered? Okay, even if they don't know you or they're not referred to you, and vice versa. You have to be perceived as being on top of a topic, on top of your field. And if you're not committing to reading and interpreting and collating and putting together the best material to share with others, then you're a follower. You're not a leader. Now, some leaders know how to follow, and that's when you comment on someone else's comment with leadership quality material. So you don't have to put it all out there from your point of view. You can comment back on somebody else's comment and start a conversation, or take the conversation in a direction that it's not going. Then the eyes of all people, you don't even know them, are following you. So you don't know who's looking at you on LinkedIn. All you know is when they're compelled to contact you. And that's when your ROI comes in, when you're consistently adding value.
Right. Yes, adding value. That's a beautiful way to put it. All right, well, that's a beautiful segue. Let's go into our part 3, how to use LinkedIn in a way that will get you that ROI, and in an important way, right? So that you can really get your gifts out to the world, get your business out there, get your services out there, do the important work we're here to do in the world. How to do it. So we're going to talk about that in terms of 3 areas: your profile, posts, and engagement. And I'm like listening intently because, I think I put a profile out there about 6 or 8 months ago, and I haven't looked at it since.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I
And
know
have you changed?
intuitively.
I
right?
know I'm not going to take you to task for it, but
I
have
know,
you
but
changed in 6 to 8 months?
have I
you
changed?
developed?
Yes.
Have you morphed? Okay. So
Yes.
every time you change, if you realize it or not, even if it's completely in your head, you're going a different direction. You need to take a step back and look at your profile. Would you buy from you? Are you projecting what you want to be selling to the universe right now? And if you're not, you need to rewrite it. And I just rewrote sections of my profile because my sway, my clientele is leading me to something different. And so I absorb that, I embrace that, and I write about it to let people know that this is something I'm doing. I never really leave the core, but I just add more layers of the onion to the core to make it more valuable.
Right. And I do that on my like my elevator pitch, like my little bio, my mini bio. I'm updating that 3 times a week, and as I do it, I keep getting clear. I keep saying, I could say that less verbose than even what I said today, what I do and who I do it for. It's true, all of that, but how can I tighten that up even better? How can I make it more relevant? As I do that, I'm doing that in a document, but I totally agree. I need to get that on my profile because I'm doing it all the time. So just if I'm changing it, put it up there. What am I doing today? Because you're absolutely right. I am changing. I have changed over the last 8 months. What I'm doing in response to my clients, like you say, is changing. So that is beautifully. So I get it's so important to adequately express what you're doing right now, why it matters right now.
But write it with pronouns so it doesn't look like you copied and pasted your resume to LinkedIn. That's an absolute huge turnoff. Look at the tenses of the verbs you use in various sections. Be sure that they reflect what you're talking about. If it's past tense, use a past tense. Your LinkedIn profile, and I'll cap off the profile because we do need to move on. Your LinkedIn profile talks about where you came from and what you did in your past that makes you who you are today. And who you are today indicates to clients how they can ride your coattails, and the 2 of you or the several of you go together into your respective futures together. So your past makes your present indicates your future. This is not your biography. This is your living career narrative. Big point. No typos, no bad verbs. Don't use was, has, may, did. Use real adult verbs, like you're making a presentation to the board of directors. I can't tell you how highly educated people use 5th grade verbs. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Well, I love and this is the punctuation we're going to take away from profile is it's a living career narrative. And it's showing why you're why you're doing what you're doing and why you're good at it and how you'll be able to help others because of your own experience and how far it got you to where you are. So that's
Why
all
you're
very
amazing,
cool.
girl, right? My
Why
big
you're
word.
amazing.
There you go. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right. All right, let's move on to posts. We want to get this ROI. We want out of LinkedIn. We want to be able to move forward in 2023 in a meaningful way. Let's talk about posts. Why is it so important to post?
Okay, when you post and you use hashtags and @ in front of names of people or companies, which are tags, they see it. People you don't even know see it, because if they're following those hashtags or following those people or those companies, your 1-2 paragraph post gets seen by thousands of people you have no control over. Because if I mention Linda in my post and I put an @ in front of your name, everybody you're connected to sees my comment on your connections. And they say, I wonder who this guy is. I saw he was on her podcast recently. I want to know more. So it's not about me. It's about adding value to the people you're connected to, because you chose me or I chose your post to add value. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, it's really important to keep posting, commenting on other people's posts. Make it a conversation. So when you post, you're the originator of the post, ask for a call to action at the end of your post. Has this ever happened to you? Please tell us that story. Do you agree with me or not? If you don't agree with me, it's okay. Be professionally disagreement. That's cool, but be professional. Is this something you've come across? Is this something that you know of somebody who can help me with? Ask. Just don't leave it and stick it on the wall and hope it sticks. Ask for conversation. When people converse back to you, thank them and go one step further in the conversation. Sort of like what we're doing right now, but just all by typing.
Yeah. Beautiful. So yeah, it's got to be a conversation. I liked what you said kind of at the beginning. It says think of it like the water cooler. You're at the water cooler and someone says something and you find it interesting. You engage with them and you say, oh, wow, yeah, that's really interesting because blah, blah, blah. And then you might ask them a question and throw it back to them. So we got to think of it like a water cooler conversation. That seems to make it easier than, like, oh, I don't know what to say to this, or I don't really have anything to say. But if someone were at the water cooler with you and they said that, you wouldn't just turn and walk away. You would engage in some way. Especially if you find it interesting, you're like, oh, that's great. I'm going to share that. Then you can share it. Now tell me, a share versus a comment. When do I want to share their post? And when do I, with my comments on the top? And when do I just want to comment on their post? And what's the difference?
Well, you can share it to all of your connections with your comment on top of it. But it's the same as when you comment on someone else's post. Everybody that you're connected to is going to see your comment. So they're really one and the same. Now, there is something called repost, which is something that you saw a few days ago, weeks ago, and just came across. You can give it new life. So you may want to add a comment and say, I just read an article last week that reflects exactly what this article from 3 weeks ago said. Put both links in there, link articles there. That's really important so that people will know that there's more than one source. So it's not just me talking, it's me saying, I want you to know about what other people have published.
Right.
Tell people what you're doing. Tell people you just did a podcast. Tell people you just wrote a chapter in a book. Tell people you've just finished making the final touches on a slide deck you're going to do next week. Tell them that you're active, because if you don't tell them what you're doing and you don't tell them that you're doing it and why people believe you to be important to do it, you disappear. We go too fast.
Yeah. So how often should people post?
Great question. Simple answer. As often as you have something important to say. Now, that doesn't give you, I have to do it every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. I have to do it every Saturday. You're not going to come up with something every day. Very few of us do. Now, I do. I have a post every morning, business morning, at 8 a.m. Yeah, I took Friday after Thanksgiving off. Yeah, I might take Christmas to New Year's off. but I am putting things there consistently. They know what time, and it's observations that are coming from me. I'm a LinkedIn coach, and they're all about LinkedIn. So I'm spreading the things that I'm seeing. I'm giving people ideas of what's new, what to look for, of things that I know that seem to be coming, that maybe you want to just kind of know the gray areas in between things. Because this is an evolving art. There have been 88 changes to LinkedIn in the course of this calendar year.
Wow.
Get ready, folks. A lot more is coming. Not because I know anything I'm not supposed to know, but it's changing. It's picking up maybe where Twitter left off or will leave off. It's going to be a conversational resource for business people. Perhaps, hopefully, in a way, it's not just a job board anymore. Back to my earlier comment. So I'm enthused about it. I see all sorts of ways to communicate on LinkedIn, orally, visually, texting. You can do audio recordings. You can do video recordings now. You do anything you virtually want to do. Use the right medium for the right message, and you can't go wrong.
Right. So just on engagement, which is the last part of how to get this ROI, we already touched upon it a little bit, like why it's so important and how it brings your message or other people's message corroborated with your thoughts and how you got to be where you are, and or what you think about it, why it's important. So it gets it out to a broader audience. So that's a beautiful thing. How do you find things to engage in? That's been a thing. Like, I don't want to just look at this big long feed because it's only the same people. I'm going to engage with the same people. How do I engage with these, other places that can be more effective for my message? How do you find where to engage?
Well, what I do is I meet great people everywhere I go. So, Linda, your blog post is this Friday. Every Friday, or I try as often as I can to get a guest blogger to be on my blog. So it's not just Marc talking all the time. It's other people who I respect and I believe have a valuable point of view to add a point of view. And then I will post on top of your blog, hey, everybody, this is brand new. This is somebody I've just met. She has a really great value to offer you in her perception, and they'll see it. So I'm engaging people as experts that I'm nominating for them to learn from. And it makes my network more valuable. It makes your network valuable to me. People you know are seeing me giving you the opportunity. People I know are seeing the opportunity you provide them. So it's not just something I read. It's not just, here's a graphic I like. It could be, here's why I think it's important from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that. When you don't know what to say, that's really the answer. Well, why did just catch your attention? Why do you think it's important? And that's the thing you share in your post. What about reaching your target market? How do you reach your target market with this engagement?
Well, as you can see, I wrote a book to my target market, professionals. These are people I like to work with. They are professionals in all walks of life. These are people that, one way or another, went to a graduate education or not, and don't know how to express themselves, even though they're highly educated and highly successful. That's part of my amazing-er, giving them the permission to talk about themselves. My value prop is being able to help them get out from under themselves. So for me, when I have a client and I'm finished working with them, I encourage them to do a grand reveal to all their clients and all their connections.
Wow.
And then if they happen to mention me as having helped them, then I give them thanks and send it on out to my folks. So this engagement is two-way street. It is constant. It is not driven in any one way. It is highly creative. I like to dream up new ways to create that engagement.
Right. Well, beautiful, beautiful. And, I would like to thank you and ask you a little bit more. Tell me about these books, because I see them in your background, and but I want to know, like, tell me a little bit about each book, who it's for, why you wrote it.
Okay. Now the top book right underneath my logo is a book I wrote for the American Bar Association. So don't say, oh, it's just for lawyers. No, it's really not. Because they asked me, would you write it for just lawyers? And I said, no, I think we should really write it for all professional practitioners. So there are some chapters that are specific to lawyers, but mostly it's written to a practitioner point of view, professionals, no matter what you do, whether you have a degree after your name or letters after your name. You don't have to be a CPA. You don't have to be an AIA. You can be anything, but it's written to intelligent people who are trying to do well. The book below in the blue cover is written to a very specific audience, nonprofit professionals, because they never learn to market themselves. And they often just market their cause and not market themselves as spokespeople for the cause. So you, us, them, you, the marketer, us, everybody in my organization, talking to them, the people we're trying to get to loosen the purse strings, to help us with whatever services they can provide, pro bono, whatever it is that they're trying to do. I have written online courses. I have worked with people all over the world. I have worked with people in just about every field, from exterminators to Zulu tribes people, as I said before, from attorneys to zoologists, epidemiologists, medical doctors, you name it. My great love in life is to help them just look a little bit amazinger than they did when they had me the first time.
Ah, so beautiful. Well, thank you, Marc, for being on Conversations Worth Your While. What if someone in the audience has, tried some of these strategies, like they've heard what you've said before, but it's still not working for them, or they haven't been successful? What could they do?
Contact me. I'm always open to contact.
Beautiful.
You go to my LinkedIn page and open my contact information. There's every way in the world to contact me. Hey, folks, look at your own contact information. If you're missing your cell phone number and your email address, you've missed great opportunities to be contacted. So there's another freebie tidbit for everybody out there.
Right.
So contact me.
All right.
I will engage with you to see if you and I can find a way to help you.
Awesome. And I will also put your contact information into the description of this episode. And
subscribe to my blog. Subscribe to my blog. Another freebie. Freebie number 3. You can get a free subscription to my blog. Just go to my website, collaborate.com. Go to LinkedIn Nuggets, which is what I call my blog. Go to any blog post. At the very bottom, it says subscribe. Have at it. Tell me what you think of my blog posts. I'd love to talk to you about it.
Great. Yeah. And to continually get tips, like you said, I think every business day, right, on LinkedIn, because it seems very overwhelming. So if I just had to do with the tip of the day, I'm just going to do that thing. That's it today. Like break it up into bite-sized pieces. That I think that might make it easier for many people. So, this has been such a beautiful thing. I love the gifts that you're sharing with the world, which helps them get their gifts out into the world. And that's my whole purpose, is to propagate that. Like, that's why I'm here. So I really appreciate you being with us today. And also, once again, I'm Linda Bucher, helping you to lighten your load, unleash that bigness inside of you, and make an impact while living a balanced, rewarding life and making that difference that you're here to make. So thank you, Marc Halpert. Halpert, said that wrong, LinkedIn coach and trainer at connect2collaborate.com, as well as thank you, audience, for sharing your time with us today. So please subscribe and remember you're welcome. And please subscribe, everybody. Remember to check the description where you'll find Marc's contact information and my contact information and the free tools and resources that we're gifting you. And until next time, make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.